We've all thought about having plastic surgery, at least casually. And if you haven't, fuck off. Just right now, fuck off. Go away. You must be a perfect human with a perfect body and no insecurities, and we don't want your kind here. For the rest of us, a good way to cure yourself of wanting any of this done is to hear more about it. Because getting a new nose sounds great until you watch it being done. So let's jump into the gory details of 3 of the most common cosmetic procedures to try to understand why we are so repulsed and fascinated by plastic surgery. That's what you're in for today on Impolite Society.
Oh, I just detest rude, unladylike young ladies.
I hope you don't mind me being a tad rude.
I myself am strange and unusual.
Don't be rude.
That is some weird, wild stuff.
Shocking, isn't it?
It's a scandal!
But it's provocative.
Please stop making me blush.
Hey, here we are again, Impolite Society. I'm Laura.
And I am Rachel.
So in case you couldn't tell by the cold open, today we're exploring plastic surgery, and not even the crazy kind, which I am absolutely certain that we are going to do an episode on at some point because it's a really wild world. And I have watched so many plastic surgery videos, and I've got some pretty gross and detailed stories to share with you guys here today. And I assume that you're into gross because you're here. So
I know we said we're saving the really wild stuff for later, but I think this is pretty wild. I think any of this gets wild real fast.
Oh, indeed. Because
it's all before and after pictures until your face is splayed open.
100%. And so there, I can't stress enough how many hours I sat and watched YouTube plastic surgeries. At least 4 hours that I spent doing this because it's addicting. Just like I assume getting plastic surgery is. I just sat there and clicked the next because you just want to see more. And there's different surgical techniques and you want to see all the befores and afters. And I'm fascinated by human bodies anyway. So it was just a spiral down the YouTube suggest rabbit hole.
I'm more into the before and afters. I just want to imagine becoming beautiful. I don't want to see all the gritty details of how it happened.
Oh, well, then this is not the episode for you because we are getting all into those details. So, to start, I looked up the most popular surgeries in the U.S. and for women, top of the list is boob jobs and liposuction. And,
of course.
Yeah, no big surprise. And for American men, at the top of the list is hair transplant.
Huh.
And plot twist, lipo too. And that kind of shocked me. I don't know about you, but it makes sense because getting old means getting fat, no matter if you're male or female, and dieting is really fucking hard. So, yeah, who doesn't want some lipo? Everyone wants lipo, right?
Yeah, from one person who likes beer to well, not to you, but to the proverbial other person who likes beer. I feel you because let's just, as the saying goes, abs are made in the gym and shown in the kitchen. And if you just don't want to commit to a low calorie diet to, get to the point where your body fat percentage is low enough so that everybody can see those hot abs and that V thing that goes down there.
I hate
just
the V thing.
Suck it all out. What do you mean? I love the V thing just on principle that men have to be thin as well.
I don't know. It looks like Ken doll legs or Barbie doll legs. Like they can just pop off your legs at any given time. I don't know. It's too...
No. You
too
couldn't because you crushed you because he's so muscular.
With those thighs.
And running low on carbohydrates.
And he's angry because he's hungry.
That's why all the bodybuilders go berserk. It's not the steroids. It's just the hanger.
So I'm not going to touch too much on hair transplants, but I will tell you if you've never looked it up, you should look it up because it is grossly satisfying. It's kind of like zit popping, like you don't actually pop it, but just like action of it, it's just weirdly satisfying.
Like pull the hair follicle out.
No, not that. Well, yes, it's like a little like almost like a melon baller. Like they just pop it into like around a hair follicle and like twist it like boop, and then it just comes out, and then they make a little slice and goes back in.
What?
Yeah, you should watch it.
That is very, very interesting to me. It also sounds like my personal hell because it's very tedious, I imagine.
Oh, yeah. It pretty much takes forever. So you can do, a whole head of hair or a section of beard. Beards are really popular for people to get hair transplants into their face so they can have a full and manly beard. It's like a really gross game of Tetris, I think. Like trying to get every these pieces to fit together.
Where do the beard hairs come from?
If you have a full head of hair, it comes from your head hair.
So you have like a soft, because here's the thing, hair is different on different parts of your body. So that's why it's like, sure, you could grab some of my leg hair and stick it on my head. And it's going to be very different. It's going to be very different. And I think if you took a hair head and you stuck it on a beard, you would have like a weird mane that's like luxurious and soft and not like
But it's
coarse.
mixed in with some like coarse other ones. So, you're kind of just like filling it in.
Just be bald at that point.
But, so I'm not going to walk you through that surgery, but I am going to walk you through some of these most popular surgeries, gory bit by gory bit. And that is nose job, liposuction, and the titty job, which we all know we want to hear about.
Just some body, just mutilation, like put on your Dexter plastic and everything, hang it all around because blood and bodily fluids are going to be flying every direction.
It's gonna get messy.
That's how I imagine modern day surgery is just fluid spewing everywhere.
Like a murder room.
Yeah.
So,
all surgeons are wannabe murderers.
So for all of these surgeries, you are going to be under general anesthesia, and that means out. This is the one, they get the anesthesiologist in, they give you this medicine, and a machine is breathing for you. So they cannot wake you up. And this is really good, especially for the first one, nose job. A rhinoplasty is the technical term. And it's especially good because they are going to tear your face off, pretty much literally. So there are two main types of rhinoplasty, open or closed. Both are horrifying, but the open one is even more horrifying. So what's going to happen is that a surgeon is going to make a cut along your columella. And that's that thing that people say is your septum, but it's not. Like the part between your two nostrils. I'm like lifting up my nose so Rachel can see. But like this fleshy part in between, that's not your septum. Your septum is inside where the cartilage is. That's your septum. This is the columella. So they make an incision in there bilaterally, so across, and then they take the tip of your nose and they pull it back. Yes, they separate the tip that they just like bisected from the bottom. Just the tip. Well, it's pretty much the whole thing. Because what they're going to do
just unsheathes
unsheath your entire fucking nose. So they're going to separate the skin on top from the cartilage and pull it back so your inside of your nose is hanging out. It's like Red Skull in Captain America. It's like lifting the hood of your car to look at the insides, except it's not like lifting the hood. They really have to burrow in there to separate those tissues, and it's really weird to watch because they've got to put a lot of muscle into it because there's all this fascia that attaches your skin to the muscles. Well, I guess there's no muscles in your nose. Maybe there's a few. I'm like flaring my nostrils right now.
I have prepared a Thanksgiving turkey. I know what it's like to separate skin from the underbits, and that's what I'm imagining.
Yeah.
It's just get the butter sliding around underneath just to get it real tender and juicy.
That is exactly the analogy that I want the listeners to picture. So if you've done any type of cooking ever, especially poultry, because poultry often comes with the skin on. So
it's so delicious.
Turkey or chicken, you've got that skin that's over the whole thing. And then when you either take the skin off or try to put, things underneath the skin, you can lift it up and there's like these thin whitish membranes. That's the fascia. And that is what the surgeons have to get through in order to get to the stuff underneath. But in humans, it's even more tricky though, because chickens, like they, especially on the face, right? Because your muscles are attached to your skin because we have very complex facial emotions. We emote, exactly. So there is the muscles are also attached in there. And I'm not a surgeon. I don't know how they detach all these without damaging it, but they do, because obviously people have these surgeries and they have a still emotive face.
I think that after you have enough surgeries, there's some damage, because everybody thinks of a plastic surgery face. It's not the most expressive.
True. Yeah, so clearly something is going on. But, I mean, in general, though, if you've got a successful one-and-done procedure, you can still emote in your face. You can still flare your nostrils, appropriately. And okay, so that was the open version, the hood of the car, Red Skull situation. The closed version is only slightly less awful. So they keep the hood on your nose car closed, and what they do instead is work from incisions just inside your nostrils, so just behind your columella. And I'm imagining that you can only do this version if you have fewer structural things that you need to change, like light nose work, as opposed to the Michael Jackson that you could get it done closed. But those are the two different options. But
it's like a little laparoscopic surgery for your nose. That's cute.
No, it's still pretty terrible because they're still like gaping these holes, and you're like, I can see your brain. You can't really see your brain, but either way you get there, once your nose is open, the real fun begins, and that is reshaping what's there. And you can do anything you want in there. You can slice out huge pieces of cartilage. You can add cartilage to your nose from a graft. Take it from other places.
What places?
I don't know. I didn't get that deep in the rabbit hole, but I'm like, I mean, where else?
From a
ears?
donor?
No.
Is there like donor places?
I think it's like your own cartilage. So like maybe you slice off a little sliver of ear and put it in your nose. Honestly, I don't know.
Okay, but who's the one that's like, I need more nose? Give me more nose.
I'll get there. Okay. Or you can shave it down. And so this is what looks to be the most popular thing, is getting rid of that bump in people's noses.
That's so sad.
I know, because it's very ethnic, right? So it's like of a certain part of the world, and you see it on these billboards, like, this was my nose, bloop, the little hump, and then before it's all smooth and white girl turned up.
Well, then, yeah, and that's I have thoughts about that too, but this might not be the part, but
but that's really popular. And so they remove those bumps, because that bump is usually caused by cartilage that has that little protrusion.
Oh, really? It's not like
it's
bone?
not necessarily in the bone, but it might be. We'll get to that. So they remove it by rasping. And does rasping sound pleasant? Because it's not. And what they do, they use basically a file. They say it's not a file, but it's a file. And they stick it up your nose, along like
under the skin,
and they just violently rub it back and forth until they've ground down that cartilage or bone to the desired shape.
And you cheese grater.
Yeah. And you should see this thing. The teeth on it are fucking huge. And then from there, they can also just straight take out parts of the cartilage to get that little cute upturned girl nose. I'm not exactly sure of the mechanics of that, like how
anti-gravity.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. I just know that like they take out all these pieces to get that little upturned nose. And when I was watching it done, I said, I can totally see how Michael Jackson ended up with such a fucked up nose. Yeah, because it was like, he was trying to go for that upturned nose so many times that it just wasn't up to his snuff. They carved out so much of his nose that it literally just fell apart. And I imagine that he did get cartilage grafts to try to put back in there, to change it up, and it just wouldn't take anymore.
See, I imagine that he was just trying to fix something that was not there, right? He was just trying to fix something that was not a physical malady. It was
Uh-huh.
much deeper in the psyche.
Yeah, absolutely. And then after the cartilage work, last comes the nose breaking, because cartilage is only half your nose. So you can feel it. The top half, like right between your eyes, that's bone.
solid.
Yeah, that's solid. And then you go a little bit down and then
Whoa.
it gets wiggly. Yeah. So the top half is bone. And if that is wider than the cute little skinny part that you just made by slicing out pieces of cartilage, then you're going to have one fucked up looking nose. So there's several techniques to do this breaking. The two ways that I saw, one was a chisel and a hammer to break it. And then the other is a tiny saw that goes up your nose, and they until you hear click.
Oh my God.
And they just fucking broke it.
And then how do they get it out?
They don't get it out. What they do is they just kind of wiggle it around, crack it around to where they want it to be. I think what they do is they break and I'm not a surgeon, guys. So I watched these videos and I went through the overview, but like the
I think you're
details
qualified.
of it. I think they crack it in the middle or the sides and then just kind of like push it to where they want it to be.
Jeez.
Yeah. And
but what even is a surgeon? Anybody with a knife and willpower and a little bit of chutzpah.
A little bit of gumption.
That is a surgeon right there, you know? Sometimes you have patients that are willing. Sometimes you don't. But you know what unites all surgeons? The love of slicing noses open, or people, specifically maybe in their nose, and just digging around in there.
So I saw them use the chisel from the outside of the nose in several videos instead of on the inside, which that surprised me. So they would put it like right along your cheek to be against your nose. Yep.
No.
And into the skin, and then with the hammer, and you'll hear it. You hear it on the video. You hear it crack. And I was like, that really surprised me, because I feel like you wouldn't want any incisions on the outside, but I think it's small enough that it heals well. I assume as long as you're not like a keloid scar. So I don't know. However it breaks, they just push it around until where they want it. And this was the part that I was like, there is so much fucking blood. Like, it was gushing in every single one of the videos that I saw.
out of the bottom,
out
or
of
where
the nose.
was it?
Out of the nose, yeah. And there really wasn't too much until the break part happened, but just watching it and how they literally, they're ripping off someone's nose and pulling it up to their eyeballs, and then rooting around in there, using saws to cut out parts of a nose, using a hammer and chisel to break it and shove it around. So much muscle that they use. I am amazed of how much trauma our bodies can truly take. It's really amazing.
You have to really hate yourself to get to that point where you're like, yes, cut my face open of all places and just fucking hammer and chisel it, please. You know, what?
Just like bang it into where I want it. Because voila, you're now the proud new owner of a brand new schnoz. So you're going to have a black eye for a while, a couple of weeks, but your little cute girl nose, it's going to reappear after a few weeks after the swelling has gone down.
And my point of issue here is, I think you're very spot on when you say your cute girl nose, because I think the nose that we are all trying to replicate is the nose of a small child. And there's just a lot to unpack there, right? The narrow, upturned nose. And I understand that your nose gets bigger as you age, and like it swells like with pregnancy and all that kind of stuff. So like having your nose changes as you age. So it's definitely like a youthful thing, I guess, but like, why are so obsessed with looking like children?
Yeah, a nose is a particularly hard thing for me, because like if I were to like pick a nose for myself from a roster of noses, it would not be the one that I own. However, I have never ever seriously considered a nose job or anything major done to my face, because as much as I might dislike some of the things about my face, when you look in a mirror, that's me. That's my face. Do you know what I mean? Like, it could be thinner and it could be tighter and it could be blah, blah, blah. It could be younger looking. But I cannot wrap my head around changing a core feature of my face. But I mean, my nose is also very much so a genetic thing. Like, it's very much so my family nose. So it's a little bit of like heritage, like right there in front of my face. So
Well,
I'm
I mean,
attached to it, you know?
talk about it being a symbol of your whole ethnicity, and you're like, fucking detach it. Get it out of there.
Yeah.
Take a chisel to it.
Take a chisel and a rasper.
I mean, but here's the thing to say. We can both say this because we're two white ladies with moderate sized noses. Like, I don't know what it's like to have a honker, you know? I mean, mine's a little long. Am I out of place by saying I have like a somewhat idealized nose?
No, you have a normal nose. I've never looked at your nose and thought anything about it other than that's a nose.
Ditto to you. I've never noticed your nose. But then also, I never noticed your lymph node.
Yeah, that's true. I am thinking about getting that lymph node removed. We'll get to that.
But that's different. That's
yeah, that came up. That wasn't what I was born with. That was like a weird thing that popped up. Anyway, any hoodle. Okay.
Anyways, you must really hate your face to have somebody cut it open and
red skull your face. Yeah. So next up is liposuction. Lipo is pretty straightforward. Again, you're under. And first what they do is they inject the areas that you want the fat sucked out. So belly, love handles, thighs, pretty much wherever, with something called tumescent fluid. And this is a mix of saline solution, epinephrine, and lidocaine. And as far as I can tell, again, not a doctor, this fluid does a few things. So epinephrine is going to shrink the capillaries in the area, and it's going to reduce bleeding because there's a lot of stabbing going on, right? So if they're bleeding all over the place, you're just going to be giant and black and blue. So
it's going to look like a Dexter scene.
Yeah, 100%. And then there's lidocaine, and it acts as a local anesthetic, but you're under. So I'm assuming that this is going to make you less sore when you wake up. Again, lots of stabbing. And then lastly, the saline. I think what the saline does, it kind of spaces things out in the area. So the area, the tissue then becomes firm and swollen and easier to get to. And I'm imagining what's happening is it's plumping it up. So like there's more space between the fat cells to make it easier to suck out.
Sure, that sounds right.
And then the sucking begins. And what they use is called a cannula, but it's not a needle. But think of a thick, really thick, think I don't know, quarter of an inch thick or half an inch thick, maybe even needle. So it's like hollow. It's a hollow tube. And what they do is they stick it underneath the skin above the muscle, which is most of where your subcutaneous fat, the fat that you don't want people to see, that's where it lives. And so it sucks out that fat and the fluid that's between the skin and muscles. So it's pretty violent. So they're stabbing and pulling and stabbing and pulling and stabbing and pulling. Like, imagine if you were vacuum cleaning with a big ass needle. So you'd violently kind of thrust forward and then pull back a little slower and do that over and over and over.
I think the best visual comparison is if you ever have had a bear stuffed at Build-A-Bear. It's like that, but the opposite. You're watching this happen and it seems pretty violent. That minimum wage worker is really jabbing that bear all over the place. It's like that.
They try to only stab one time. I mean, not once isn't realistic, but as few times as they can, and then radiate the needle into all the other areas from where you are. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's just they do one stab into my bear's arm and then another stab in the
well,
bear's
think
head.
of one stab in the bear's belly, right? And you're stuffing radially, up, down, back, and front. Yeah. You're stabbing all the different ways to
Very
get
similar.
to all the places without having to make more than one incision in your bear. And so
exactly.
as I was watching, I was thinking it did not look fun, but when they were done, I literally said, oh my God, this woman She was lying on her side and she was getting like her waist lipoed. She went from looking like a perfectly normal American person, you know, not super fat, not super skinny, just somewhere in the middle, lying on her side, to looking like a fucking Playboy model. I mean, like a perfect hourglass from laying there. And I was like, oh snap, should I do this? Should I get this?
Yeah, of all the surgeries, this is the one that I would probably sign up for the most. Not because, you know, my face is, I like, your face is your face. My boobs, they're there. But I'm like, everybody's fat, you know, everybody's got some fat on them that you want removed. I think this is the common man's plastic surgery. And if somebody said, Rachel, you want a free liposuction, I would do it tomorrow. I would walk in there and
I would
like,
too.
give me a flat stomach, take away this weird little gibbly bits under my butt, and then I would literally be my best self. We'll also slap on underarms and the bra boob area.
Oh, that
the
bra fold.
The bra fat. Yeah,
Yeah.
get rid of that. And my problem is I put on my fat very evenly, so there's not just one spot you could just vacuum out real quick. It's like it would be like 5 or 6 places. It's just like disco on a diet.
So, in case you're wondering, I looked up how much fat they can remove with one session of lipo, and that is about 5,000 cc's of fat, which is 10 to 11 pounds. So maybe not.
That's perfect.
Oh, well, not for me. I need way more than that.
But you have to spend the money every session, I guess.
Well, that's as much that can be done in one session. So that's like the max. So it would be like 5 to 10 pounds in the stomach, which is immediately where I would get it. But then even so, like you would have to do then your legs and then your arms and blah, blah, blah,
Well,
blah.
do you know why?
Why?
Because you would die. Because there's blood.
Yeah.
Your
You're
fat
bleeding.
has blood in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've heard this, and I tried to Google and confirm it, so I could not. So it's still, in the 30 seconds I took Googling to back my story up, I could not find it. So take this with a grain of salt. But I've heard back in the day when they were first figuring out surgery, they would just cut out fat from the people that they were doing the surgery on because they're like, they
they'll
don't
just
need
appreciate
this.
it.
Yeah, they don't need this. Like, it's extra. Cut it out, get rid of it. And then their patients would die because they're losing all this blood that's in the fat. Because, I mean, I guess it is still part of you.
Oh, absolutely. Everything in your body has blood supply. So
Yeah.
And that's why they give you that epinephrine to keep you from bleeding out through your insides.
Yeah, so it's to make it go smoother, but also to keep you alive. And that's just a good underlining point of all of this, is that you are taking your life into your own hands.
I mean, that's general anesthesia, period. You know, there's always a risk. It is like 0.05 or I don't know what the percentage are. I know they are very small, which seemed like nothing when it was me. But my daughter has been under twice for ear tube surgery, and it is an under surgery. And so every time I'm just like, because there's that tiny percentage that something is going to go horribly wrong. So, you know, take that care that you have for your children, take it for yourself, and don't do it unnecessarily.
Yeah,
Well,
that's my moral stance behind. Oh, tick, 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 tick. Bummer index. It's moving. It's moving. How can you talk about taboos without having bummers? I don't know. We're trying it out. Okay, move on.
Our next category.
Suck the fat out, maybe or maybe not.
The breast augmentation, the itty bitty titty committee is here, and they got a lot to say. So, boob jobs, there are a zillion techniques. They can make incisions wherever they want. It can be under the arm, under the boob, around the nipple, and then the implants can be placed in a bunch of places too, either over the muscle and underneath the gland, aka that's your natural breast tissue, or underneath your pectoral muscles. And there are a ton of different shapes and kinds of implants. There's round, teardrop, gummy bear, silicone, saline, the list really goes on. So this is the most popular surgery. So there is a lot of money to be made here. So they are pumping out new things all the time to get them better, more realistic, more long lasting.
What the fuck shape is Gummy Bear?
I don't think they make gummy bears anymore. It was a more natural breast shape. So the shape of a silicone implant is, I don't know how to describe
A
it.
hamburger.
Yes, like a really fat hamburger. There you go. It's, it's a circle.
This is why I need the
and it's
lipo. I'm always
squishy.
thinking about hamburgers.
And it's squishy. The gummy bear is a different kind of material. So it's not as goopy as silicone. Like it literally is, it's kind of like a gummy bear texture. So it doesn't move the same way. And then it's shaped more like a natural breast where it's thinner on top and then rounder at the bottom.
Oh, like the belly of a gummy bear.
Is
Not
that- I
like
don't-
a head and then a stomach and then legs. You're like, it's the most natural. And I'm like,
Just
what?
picturing like a giant, like one of those novelty gummy bears shoved underneath
Just
your
on my
boobs.
chest, like, hey.
The
Well,
little
that would be a
arms.
surprise for the guys you take home from the bar. Just like, hey,
Look at these gummy
It's-
bears.
it's Easter under here, or whatever occasion gummy bears are appropriate for.
But then also this was something that I learned because I was always like, why are they so round looking? Because they look so unnatural. Implants always look so unnatural because of how round they are. And I was like, oh, so these more natural shaped ones would look more natural. Well, spoiler alert, the natural breast shape sags, just like natural breasts do. So you're gonna
Fucking
have
gravity.
you're gonna have to get them redone more often. So it is an option, but not a lot of people opt for them because you're gonna have to get them redone even more often. I'll talk a little bit about redoing boob jobs here later.
They have an expiration date.
They do.
Or you can just let your natural looking boobs naturally sag, because what's more natural than sagging boobs?
So either way, once the incisions are made in the chosen location, what the surgeon will do is to create a pocket to hold your new titty, because everything in your chest is very much so situated where it needs to be. So
All
they
accounted for.
yeah, every square inch is accounted for. So they have to make room. And so if that's underneath the muscle, that means they are cutting in and going down to where your pectoral muscle is attached to your ribs and cutting apart the muscle and fascia from your ribs and separating it to make room for that new artificial body part. This was very disturbing to watch. There's a lot of slicing. There's a lot of pulling. They use things that look like little mini crowbars to kind of hold open these gaping incisions. They start rooting around in there. And in the surgeries that I saw, several of them use this little cauterizing thing rather than a
to
scalpel.
burn it?
Yeah. And it's really freaky. So you can see the little tiny flame that it uses. And like, because it doesn't use a tiny flame. It's like really hot, but it catches tiny bits of fat. And then it like kind of flares out and sizzles, and you can see these little like burned bits of scar tissue that it leaves behind as it makes its way through, making room for your new breast.
It's like internal barbecuing yourself.
Yeah, and I'm looking because I mean, the tissue, it turns brown, it turns black, and I'm just like, this like you're sewing this back up inside your body. It just doesn't look healthy.
Okay, but here's the question: is where did you see all of this? Like, where is this stuff
YouTube.
available? YouTube.
Yeah.
So who is the doctor that's like,
There
Hi,
was
patient.
one guy, oh man, he had the best setup. He's got a camera on his head, he's got a camera up top, and he narrates the whole thing as he does it. I imagine that it is a great marketing technique.
oh my gosh, yeah, but like, who's the one who wants to sign up? Like, are there just like boobs out the whole time, or do
Yes,
they put
but
a
you
black
don't see
bar?
their face. No, tits are out. Tits are all out, but you
Does
don't see their
YouTube
face.
allow nipples?
I think in a surgery setting they do, because I certainly saw them.
when they're
I saw
cut
them.
off of your body.
That's when they're okay.
In back.
So once they've made their little hot pocket in there, the implant goes on in, and the surgeon, he'll jiggle it around to make sure that it's placed correctly. do more cutting as needed to shift it into place. They'll raise the surgery table so it's more of a sitting position because we got to see how they hang, right? How they hanging.
It's the gravity. That's the problem.
Yep. And
That's
so
the breast's natural enemy, gravity.
And from here, they'll do any tweaks that they need to, shifting it one way, shifting the other, making more space as needed. If it's hanging, if it's getting squeezed out by another muscle that's attached, you got to go in there and cut it out. And then they stitch on up. And I watched maybe 5 or 6 boob jobs because 1, I wanted to see the different techniques, and 2, I was absolutely fascinated. So one of these women,
3, boobs. Who doesn't like boobs?
Yeah, they are kind of fun to just watch. Sometimes I just jiggle them just for fun.
Oh my god! Every time I go down the stairs, I'm like, boop, 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 make sure they're still there. Men like to reposition their junk, and women are just like tits,
just hitching them up. So
continue.
One woman that I saw, she was some hot young thing, and this was her 3rd boob job, and
somebody probably fucked him up along the way.
Well,
right?
so that's them thinking that's what the surgeon said, that she wasn't happy with them. I'm like, but 3 times. I think that's really the lesson that you should take from this. Not even plastic surgery can buy your happiness. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, maybe the surgeon messed it up once and then she did another one to fix it. But then why the fucking 3rd one? You know what I mean? Like, there's some things that you just can't fix. If you're not happy with yourself, you're just not happy with yourself. There's nothing to be done. And of course, she was a freaking hot ass girl. She's got a totally flat belly and, giant knockers.
From plastic surgery.
Yeah, well, either way, but she looks great.
Well,
I feel like she doesn't see that.
Skinny girls are attracted to the breast surgery because it's like if you're a naturally skinny person, guess what makes up boobs? It's fat. So if you don't have a lot of fat, you don't have a lot of boobs, and so then they need the plastic surgery. So that's the skinny girls who get the knockers.
Well, that was another one that I saw. It was a woman who was ironing board flat. She went to D-cups. And they looked so fucking stupid fake. It was just, like 2 half basketballs strapped in. I'm like, you look fucking stupid. And then the last one I watched, that was the best one. And it was a saggy old titty woman like me. So I was all in. I'm like, let's
represent.
See. Slow clap, everybody.
Yeah, it's just my boobs swinging and slapping against each other as I walk around.
So Saggy McGee got it all done. She got a lift and an implant. And this is what they do usually, because you can just do a lift, but I've looked them up. They don't look as good. The shape doesn't come together the same way.
But I got the meat, Laura. I got the meat.
I know exactly the 30 Rock episode that you are referencing. It doesn't work. Because what they do, see, this is what you want to do. When you look in the mirror and you say a lift, like what you'll do when you're naked in front of the mirror is you'll put your hands on top of your titties and then you'll lift up and you're like, oh, that looks good. But that's not what they do because you can't do it up there. You have to do it at the bottom. So imagine taking a breast in each hand and then squeezing all the skin and you're like, yeah, they come up, but the shape isn't right. They're all a weird shape. That's why you also need the implant. And so what they do, they basically flayed her breast open and then they put an implant under the muscle and reconstructed her breast. So they keep her nipple attached to the natural breast tissue, but they cut all around the areola and then they cut down to the crease of the breast. Okay. And then like flay it open, separate all the skin. All right. They've put an implant underneath, so it's like all like the skin is like full, right? As full as it can be while not looking absolutely ridiculous. So you've got like a disembodied titty gland with an areola attached.
Just floating.
And just like floating there. Yeah. And then they hoist the areola up to a new location higher up on the breast. And then they staple it. Like legitimately. Yeah.
I was pull out the stapler.
I was like, this can't be how they do it. Like, you have to make an incision. You have to attach it. Well, Yeah. But what they do is they do that to get the positioning right.
Oh, and then they cut and then
Yes.
sew.
So then they decide this is where it looks. This is good. This is how we like it. So then they cut a new opening for the areola higher up on the breast, stitch it in, and then close the bottom, removing some skin, some excess skin there.
And then the surgeon goes home and thinks, yes, I have contributed to humanity today.
But I'm
and
not
they
going to
cry
lie.
into their stacks of money.
But once it was done, I'm not going to lie. They look good. I mean, they did look fake.
After it healed, right?
Well, no, I mean, even just after they were done, I mean, they look like Frankenboob. You know, she's got stitches and staples. But after it was done, I'm like, I can see how this is going to heal and this is going to look nice. Fake, again, but still pretty good looking.
As long as all the nerves are connected to where they need to be, I
yeah,
guess.
I think, I mean, if you're leaving the whole nipple attached to the breast, then I assume, you know, because nipples are, you know, they can be important. So I assume that they don't mess with anything. But, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure a ton of them go wrong.
I've heard that it reduces sensation in the nipple after the fact.
How could it not? You literally sliced it off.
Yeah, so you're literally reducing the things that you can feel to make your boobs more attractive. You're putting plastic, you're reducing your potential sensation to make yourself more attractive to your partner. Anyways, feminist soapbox, I'm getting off of it right now.
Okay, and then the last one I watched, this one was a doozy. They were removing old breast implants. And I learned something that I did not ever knew. I knew that you had to replace breast implants every so often, but I didn't know why. So there's a couple of different reasons. It's the integrity of the implant, like it can, you know, leak or puncture. That's what they have an expiration date. Yeah, leaking silicone out into your body. But there's another reason. It's called encapsulation. So your new knockers, they are not a part of you. And your body is 100% aware of this. So to protect itself from this foreign item that it deems as a potential threat, because again, it's not supposed to be there, your body tries to quarantine it. It forms a barrier all around it, all around the entire implant, a capsule of scar tissue. And this happens not just to breast implants, but any medical device that you put in your body. So if you've got like a screw or a fake hip or whatever, like this is just something that happens. But this scar tissue, they call it scar tissue. It's not like any other scar tissue that I've seen before. Like, you know, when you cut yourself, you know, you've got like a denser, you know,
and
skin.
Laura has seen scar tissue. She has dissected bodies. She has opened up bodies.
It is hard and brittle. And hard and brittle are generally not the words that you want to describe your boobies. So when they get like this, you have to have them removed and replaced, because not only are they going to feel weird, they'll start to look weird because that previous hamburger shaped implant is going to get boa constricted into these round basketball looking things because the scar tissue is encapsulating a smushy hamburger. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. At first, when you said it changes the shape and the appearance, I was like, the general public hasn't seen the actual shape of my breast in years. So it's just like, what's the difference, right? You know, it's the same, but if it's starting to like crystallize and change the shape,
it gets hard. Like imagine, like, you know, you've got a boob that's like, you know, it naturally is like round and soft. So, you know, but imagine if you literally just put like a softball underneath your skin. It does not look right. It gets lumpy. Of course, it contracts in like an ununiform way, and they're misshapen. Did you see the picture that I put in the notes? Because I put several in there.
So Laura has added screen grabs. Is now the appropriate time to describe what I'm seeing in the screen grabs?
Yes.
So there are several screen grabs of a video of a removed breast implant. And the best thing that I can describe it as is it looks like a Baby Bell cheese wheel. It's got like a red, waxy outside that they have peeled off, and then inside is the yellowish, like, cheese wheel, which was the silicone implant.
I referred to it as a pomegranate. So it's red and it's lumpy and circular on the outside. And then he peels it open, and I mean literally it cracks
like the wax
open.
coating.
Yeah, cracks
of
open.
the Baby Bell cheese wheel.
And it starts to flake everywhere. And so it looks like he just hold a pomegranate. And the sound that he made, I mean, they cut open and they like lifted some of the tissue, and he took a surgical instrument and hit it. And it was like hitting a watermelon. Like thump, 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 thump.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
It's just why would you put this into your body? I don't get it. This is
But my boobies are so flat and I feel like a man. And I'm self-conscious with my flat stomach.
So that is it. That's the top 3 plastic surgeries in the United States. And so now that we've gotten all the gory details of how they're done.
And can I reiterate that these are not the most extreme? These are the most common. People are having their faces opened, their fat stabbed, and their breast filleted open like the Viking blood eagle every goddamn day.
Yeah. I mean, I was wondering how many surgeries does this guy do in a day? That's what I was wondering. 2, 3, 5? I have no idea.
At least 3. I don't know. How long does it? He's probably got it down to zip, zap,
Oh
zoom,
my God.
boom,
He is
boom.
so confident and so
Sit them up, jiggle them around, slap them around a little
they
bit.
do.
See
They
what
do
they look
slap
like.
them around.
Bop, bop, bop. And then they're like, looks good. I'd put my dick between those. Sew them up.
It is definitely difficult to watch the surgeries because they are they're these unconscious women laying on a slab and people are cutting and grabbing, and it's just like, it does make you feel very uncomfortable.
Well, I'm sure it makes us feel uncomfortable in a lot of ways, right? Like, why, speaking of taboos, why is this, your body, your choice, but like, why are there so many taboos around this?
Okay, so there's a couple of theories, and it's not just the Red Skull nose, the ripping, the stabbing. There's something going on a social level, because if plastic surgery was not taboo in some way, we could ask anyone at all, did you have work done? And it wouldn't be rude, but it's super fucking rude. Don't ever ask anybody that.
Wait, can I share a story about this?
Yeah.
So when I was a young, ripe, late teenager, I went to community
I don't
college.
like that word.
I just think of how my breasts looked at the time. They were right. And I was very into low-cut shirts, and I was a high school senior doing like dual credit. So I'd go to the community college in the afternoon to take classes. And in one of my classes, a theater class, nonetheless, I was sitting there with probably one of my low-cut tops, boobs looking magnificent, as they do when you're 18.
Mm-hmm.
And this older woman who was there, and she was like, thought she was hot shit, talking about how hot she was. She was probably like 40. I don't know. I was 17. Everybody over 20 was like ancient. And then she asked me, we were sitting in the theater doing something. She turned and asked me, she's like, are those implants? Like, did you get a boob job? And I was just like, no, this is my tits. And I have the stretch marks to prove it.
That, honestly, I'd be like, no, they're real. Thank you. What a compliment.
No, she definitely meant it as a dig because she was
old. Yeah, and jealous. That's what I mean. So to me, that's a confidence booster. Like, yeah, they're young, they're high, and they're tight. Thanks for noticing.
They won't be forever, but today they're good. Do not laugh when the bustier goes by, because where you are, so once was I. That's what I say. I've never liked them. I don't want them. And that was ridiculous.
Well,
yeah.
if
She
you
also
didn't want them. Why are you wearing these low cut tops?
Well, at the time, that was the style. That was what everybody was wearing. I was just buying the same shit at Abercrombie as everybody else. And she also said a lot of weird stuff about like how I'm attractive and my husband is attractive. And I was worried our kids weren't going to be attractive because sometimes two good looking people can have ugly babies.
This lady sounds
but
really
I'm like,
fucking weird.
Yeah. This is why you're in a fucking community college theater class at 40. I'm just, come on.
So that was a super rude thing to say. And here are my theories as to why we are all collectively a little weirded out by plastic surgery. First up, vanity and shallowness. Vanity is a deadly sin for a reason, right? We're taught from a young age that it is not good to be too focused on our appearance, and people don't like people who are vain. Yet for some reason, we also fucking love beautiful people, preferably someone who doesn't know or care that they are beautiful or put in any effort to being beautiful.
Effortless beauty.
Yeah, that's what we value over everything else. Next one is seeking validation. So American society expects us to be confident and self-assured. Self-assured. But how? No one can tell you how one becomes self-assured, but we do know that you should not seek validation from the people around you. And getting work done so that you can receive external validation? Psh, fucking loser.
Yeah, so like, aren't you happy enough with yourself? Like, why do you need to put your body, why do you need to face death, potentially kill yourself to be more attractive? Like, what?
Yeah, and we look down on that. I mean, we did it ourselves, talking about it previously. Like, why would you do this to yourself to fit a beauty
Because
standard?
you're not mentally well.
Next, artificiality. So it's interesting to me that in our most technologically advanced time, we are still obsessing over what is natural and what is not. But to me, it's like putting all natural on a food product. It doesn't mean anything. It's just like a term that we grabbed out of the air that has no definition. I think there's something going on here that kind of correlates with the uncanny valley kind of instinct of like, it looks too fake, close to real, so it weirds me out. So we don't like that. I think that there's a tipping point that's probably different for everyone. For some people, it's Tom Hanks in, what is it, The Polar Express?
The Polar Express.
and then for some other people, it's a fake nose or a fake breast, like knowing that it exists. It gets too fake and it weirds you out. And I don't know. I just think that there's something interesting going on there. I can't put my finger on exactly what, but something.
Well, yeah, you can take, especially when you come to like natural, you can take a person who's born that way and somebody looks exactly like them who was created through surgery. People are going to prefer the natural. And I think it goes way back to that ideology or that belief that attractiveness equals goodliness. So if you can change your appearance and look more attractive, then all of a sudden you're duping us, right? You're somebody who isn't as good, who is now appearing good.
It's like makeup. People get slammed for wearing too much makeup.
They get
too good.
so offended. Men.
Mm-hmm. Like, this is why I have trust issues. Women. Those videos, like those transformation videos on TikTok, where you find like a really homely looking woman and then like, boom, I'm super hot. And guys are like, oh my God. I'm like, what you need to do, men, is you just need to understand the hallmarks of makeup. Like, you cannot look at that person that is literally so painted and then be surprised that they look different when they take off that makeup. Like, of course they look different. You cannot see anything. You can see nothing.
All these men who are like, I like a natural woman. I like a natural woman. They will, like, when you give them images, they will point to a woman wearing makeup and be like, she's natural.
Exactly, because they don't know. They're completely... just, if you want to educate yourself, men, just go on TikTok and start looking up makeup tutorials. And then you'll see the transformation step by step by step. And then if you're freaked out by the idea that you're going to be, catfished by some woman who looks a certain way in the bar and then looks awful the next morning, look for the hallmarks of heavy makeup, because you can see it happen as you watch people get dressed.
Or I was going to say, if you want a woman who looks natural, she's going to look like a man. because guess what? That you guys aren't wearing any makeup, and when we don't wear makeup, we look like you.
With longer hair and bigger boobs.
Well, depending on the man.
True.
And depending on the woman if she didn't get plastic surgery.
And the last one, the last reason I think that we are collectively weirded out by plastic surgery is it shows some kind of weakness of character. And I think of this in the sense, let's be real, women don't get bigger boobs so their shirts will fit better. I'm sorry, just shut the fuck up. They get big boobs because it's in style, because men like them. People say, oh, it's for my confidence. Like, okay, but again, your confidence is
shaped by the patriarchy.
Shaped by the image that society has deemed as attractive. So that's just, I mean, I bet if you looked at how many lesbians have implants, it's a lot lower than straight women. Because, yeah, I mean, everybody likes titties. Men, women, lesbian, whatever. But it's that sense of like, where do you draw the line? Where is your worth coming from? You know what I mean?
I do, but my response is, you do the research. I don't want to do the research. I don't want to look into it. You look into it.
I did.
Into the
the lesbian thing. No, I didn't. I didn't dig that far into
we're
it.
done with that.
Yeah, we're
shit,
done
right?
chasing those kinds of strings. We're on a time budget now, folks.
We're gonna pose the question, and we're gonna say, "You really want to know that? Let your fingers do the walking. You look it up, and then you let us know. You send us the article, then we'll do a podcast."
Oh, I like that. Submit not only your ideas, submit your research to Impolite Society.
Your peer-reviewed research. And if you want to write a script, I mean, we'll probably read it word for word.
I like that. Crowdsource our research and scripting.
Crowdsource the podcast. Here we go. If you want to hear your words read back to you in our voices.
I just got the email for you. All right, so we judge people who have gotten plastic surgery because it feels like they've caved to those unrealistic body standards and accept that cultural lie that to be valued, you have to be beautiful.
Well, or they just don't like themselves, right? Like like we talked about confidence and that self-assuredness. It's a very open way, a very forward way to be like, yeah, I'm not happy with who I am and this meat sack I'm walking around with. And I'm like, well, if you don't like you, why should I like you?
Yeah. And I struggled with this section when I was writing it. And it came down to, okay, all these reasons. Do I find validity in it? Do I agree with it? Yes. Yes, I do. I mean, we've talked about it throughout all the research when we were going through it. It absolutely bothers me. I can understand every single one of these. But would I get lipo if someone gave me a free coupon for it? You bet your ass I would. Do I also get Botox pretty regularly? Yep, sure do. And
we are hypocrites.
That is cognitive dissonance, folks. And honestly, I think that this is a huge reason why plastic surgery makes us so uncomfortable, because we're coming too close to that cognitive dissonance. We're facing it nose to nose and saying, I think that getting plastic surgery is shallow and awful and blah, blah, blah. But damn, it does look good. You look good.
Well, we're all looking for the easy way out.
Aren't we all? I absolutely am. And that's the end of this podcast.
That's the easy way out. It's over. Bye.
Well, I should say that's the end of the research. But that's the conclusion that I came to, that cognitive dissonance, that is why we're uncomfortable with it, because we don't know what to do with it. We don't know where to place it.
Yeah, because it's bad when other people do it, but it's okay when we want to do it.
Because we look hot when we look in the mirror.
Well, yeah, we all feel better. We all will feel better about ourselves if we changed one or two things, ideally, right? So it's
one
just...
or two. Psh. I thought about doing an experiment one time. I've never actually done it. I've just thought about it. Of like, if you were to literally take bit by bit, like top of my head to the tip of my toes, and write down everything that I wanted to change about my body. And I'd be like, that would be the longest list in the world. And then I'm like, I don't actually want to make that list. I just want to note to myself, that there's a lot of things that I don't like about myself, but that's okay. You know what I mean? Like, it's just part of being a human being.
Yeah, and like people won't ever look at you that closely, so they have
Exactly.
no idea.
Like, I don't need toe shortening surgery because no one is fucking looking at my goddamn toes. And if you
And
are,
I
you're a
don't-
pervert. Get away from my toes.
I mean, especially in this day and age, like you, Laura, your whole identity is an email signature to a lot of people. So that's humbling.
And my picture that's attached to, like, you know, my worker profile.
And now you
I'm
can
pretty
just have
happy with
AI.
it. Yeah.
You can have AI make you a better one.
Oh.
And that's what I'll say. It's like, I get the urge, and I'm not going to judge the urge. I'm going to judge it a little bit, to be fair. I'm going to judge you the most when you you risk your life, the one life that you have, the one chance you have to be on this earth. If you risk that to change your appearance, that's something. But if you're going to, like, in the future, when we all live through filters and people can present any way they want, as long as people get their chance to be alive, I'm like, good for you, you know? I am more okay with filters and makeup and all that kind of stuff. Do whatever you need to do, but, like, just don't roll the dice that you're shortening your time here on this planet, because that's literally this. You don't get a do-over.
No do-overs. No take-backs. One life to live.
Except
Live it to
for
the
in
fullest.
podcasting, because then
Oh.
we didn't like this take, so we're going to redo the whole thing.
One life to live. All right, so that is it for this episode for Impolite Society. I would recommend that you follow us on Instagram. I think we're going to be on Instagram.
Subscribe. Number one is subscribe.
Oh, yeah, subscribe. And also, tell friends. Smart, curious people know other smart, curious people. We want to bring them into the fold to hear about the rude, the macabre, the strange, the weird, the shocking. Bring them to our folds.
And only pass a little bit of judgment while doing so.
Yeah. Send this to your friends who've had plastic surgery and be like,
you have weak morals. Only because the rest of us can't afford to have weak morals. We got mortgages.
and daycare.
and car payments.
Rachel's buying a van. All right.
Minivan. I have a minivan.
Oh, you did. Oh, we'll have to hear about all this when the cam turns off. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. Share, tell your friends, and email your completed scripts with peer-reviewed research at rude@impolitesocietypodcast.com. Thank you all.
@gmail.com.
What?
You said it. Impolite Society Podcast @.com.
It's rude@impolitesocietypodcast.com.
Oh, yeah. We have several email addresses.
Don't confuse the listener.
The listener. And you'll figure it out. Bye-bye.
Bye. Should we put a break in here somewhere?
No, we didn't with my last episode. It was roll the credits, you know? Get the people what they want, which is 40 minutes of this.
Okay.